At the heart of populism, there is a distrust of humanity, a distrust of human beings.
What will be the future of romantic love, and what should be the future of romantic love?
If it's only focused on you, then AI could be the perfect companion. Like Elon Musk, like the leaders of Silicon Valley, they are not elected by anybody.
Right.
And maybe they are making the most important decisions in the history of the world.
What wins, justice or revenge?
Ooh.
Let's kind of start with, what do you think power is in the year 2025? Trump defines power as fear. Trump says power is fear. What do you think power is?
Well, the question is, what do you do with power? Do you use power just to gain more power? Or do you try to use power in order to change the world for the better, in order to improve people's lives? And that's always the big question in politics. Unfortunately, at the present moment, we have too many politicians who think about power as just a means to gain more power.
Sure.
And this has always been the danger in democracy. You know, for thousands of years, going back to ancient democracies, democracy is a system in which you give power to somebody,
right,
on condition that after 4 years or so, they give it back, and the public can make another decision. Did you use your power wisely and compassionately for 4 years? Okay, then we give it again. Or if not, we give it to somebody else. The question is always, what happens if you give power to somebody who doesn't want to give it back? They now have all the power. They can use it to just stay in power. And I think the American public had made a very big gamble, very big risk with giving so much power to Trump, who already proved that he wants to stay in power at all costs.
Right.
So we will see what happens.
And why do you think they did that? Why? What was the reason that Trump won in this incredibly, just very definitive way? I mean, I think, was it 8 million more people voted for him now than they did the last time. So
I don't know. I'm not an expert on American society or politics, so I can't.
What I was trying to get you to talk about really was the trend of populism. Is it a trend
yes,
globally? Yes,
absolutely. You see it across the world.
Yeah.
You know, now we saw in South Korea what was happening.
Yeah.
That you see again leaders all over the world.
Yeah.
That are more interested in power and staying in power than in serving the people and doing good.
But why do we see this happening so often and so many? I mean, the trend, populist political movements are not new. They've been happening around the world all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What is the one thing that kind of provokes that? If you look back in history and even the present tense, is there one common thing that provokes a populist movement?
I think at the heart of populism, there is a distrust of humanity, a distrust of human beings.
Right.
You see it both on the radical right and also on the radical left. They have different ideas about many things, but one thing unites them. It is thinking that the only reality is power, and that all human interactions are power struggles.
Right.
They don't believe, populists, that humans and human institutions really care about the truth. Right. In the populist imagination, when I'm now talking with you, this is a power struggle. Everything we say is just trying to manipulate each other or to manipulate the viewers.
Right.
So the question to ask, whenever you hear somebody say something, the question to ask is not, is it true? What is the evidence? The question to ask is, who is winning?
Right.
Who is gaining power? Whose interests are being served? This view of humanity, as if all humans are power-crazy demons, this erodes trust in human beings. It erodes trust in institutions, in the media, in university, in courts.
Yeah.
People think, oh, these are just conspiracies of people to gain power. And if you lose trust in all institutions, democracy collapses. Democracy functions based on trust.
Right.
If there is no trust, the only system that can still function is a dictatorship.
Right.
Because dictatorship is built on terror, not on trust.
Right.
You need to frighten people, not make them trust. Now, the main thing to say about this populist worldview is that it's not just very cynical, it's simply wrong. Yes, humans are interested in power to some extent, but every human being also has an authentic, deep yearning for the truth. We really want to know the truth about the world.
Right.
Why? Because if you don't know the truth about life, you will never be happy.
Correct.
Because you don't know what are the true sources of your misery. Even if you're the most powerful person in the world, if you don't know the truth about life, you will waste all your power trying to solve the wrong problems.
Correct.
And we should start life, we should approach the world with a more generous view of human beings and human institutions, that yes, some human beings are corrupt, there are problems, sometimes people lie, but this is not the basic situation of humanity.
Why, when you, and it's interesting, you said you use the word misery, human misery.
Yeah.
Is that something that you feel we are coming to faster? So, you know, if we go back in time, we see that the regime change, you know, has happened after 400 years, 300 years in the past. You know, now there seems to be a majority or a popular number of enough people in that citizenry get disillusioned with that regime much quicker.
Yeah.
And so they're always asking for change.
Only in democracies.
Only democracy.
Because in once you get an authoritarian in power, the ability to change the regime is over. Because even if most people want to change the regime, they can't. We saw this, for instance, in Venezuela, that originally Hugo Chavez and Maduro, they came to power democratically.
Correct.
This is what the people wanted. But then they used their power to take over the state. And in the recent elections in Venezuela, the opposition won by more than 60%. But because Maduro got his people into the courts, into the election committee, he says, I won. And you can't move him aside.
But isn't that a matter of time? Okay, so I think what the election outcome is aside, but I think my question is more in terms of just the people. Do the people get fed up of the regime faster today than they used to? I'm just drawing a bit of parallel with brands, and you know, like it took 200 years to build Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I mean, history is accelerating. Yeah. And you know, being fed up with one of the deep truths about human nature is that the basic reaction of the mind to pleasant experiences is not satisfaction, but craving for more.
Right.
So the better things become, people do not become more satisfied. They become more, they have more desires, they have more cravings, and they are less satisfied.
It's interesting in America, because in America, I mean, it's been a great 50 years by and large. I mean, they've been successful, they've commanded the attention of the world.
That's the amazing thing, you know, Trump's slogan is let's make America great again.
Right.
As if America is not great. But you look at America in recent years, during Biden's time, it is by far the biggest economy. The American economy is booming. You look at the rise of American GDP, China is in trouble, Europe is in trouble, America is doing great. You look at the military. The US military is by far the strongest army in the world. It's the strongest country. You look at the AI race, which is the center of the book I wrote, and United States is winning the AI race, which will make America even more powerful economically, culturally, militarily. And yet, Americans are so dissatisfied, so angry, so fearful. You look at the long span of history, and in terms of health, nutrition, security, countries like the United States, like France, like Germany, this is the best place in history.
Yet
and people are so dissatisfied.
So is spirituality an answer to this dissatisfaction? Or is it something that actually makes you polarize more and creates more dissatisfaction?
It depends on if you mean spirituality or religion.
Yeah, I was gonna exactly. So
I mean,
if I use my definition of spirituality, which is the act of going inwards.
Yes.
You know,
the problem of real spirituality is that it doesn't scale. Real spirituality is when you have a big question.
I'm surprised you're saying that, because you're from Israel.
Yeah.
You know, and you do Vipassana all the way, like 4 hours away from Mumbai.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it. So it's kind of scaled, right?
you think how many people there are in India or in Israel, and how many of them really go on these deep spiritual journeys.
Religion scales, spirituality doesn't.
Yes, religion scales. Spirituality is when you ask a big question about life, what is reality, what is good, and you go on a very deep, sometimes difficult journey to find the answers. And you're not willing to no matter what obstacle you encounter, you go on.
Right.
Religion is when people are kind of tired or give up on the spiritual quest, and they just get a ready-made answer. Like somebody says, this is the answer to the big question. Take it, believe it. You cannot question it.
Right. And
you just believe it. Blind belief. This scales. This you can make 1 billion people chant some answer.
Yeah.
So whenever there are many spiritual traditions around the world, every time you try to scale them up, that it's not an individual or a small group.
It gets adulterated. Something goes wrong.
Yes, because people, they become attached to rites and rituals. They become attached to beliefs, and they forget about the true essence of the spiritual path. And then it becomes a religion, and it often leads to more conflict and more political strife instead of, the best test for a spiritual tradition or a spiritual place like a temple or a synagogue. Does it bring peace or conflict? If you have a temple and you have lots of people fighting over it, it means it's not functioning well. So this is a very simple test. And you see it like in Jerusalem, supposed to be the holiest place on earth, the most spiritual place on earth. So many wars. If it's so spiritual, how come it causes so much bloodshed?
Is there anything in your time in India and your exposure to spirituality in India, and I like to believe India is at the heart of any devout place, and there is some spirituality in India. Do you think India has some kind of learning for the world, that the world can learn something from Indian spirituality, or are we just as good or as bad as any place else in the world?
I'm not an expert on comparing the spiritual tradition. I myself found the deepest answers in my life, on my spiritual path, from a tradition that started in India with the Buddha. And my teacher, Goenka, he learned it in Burma, in Myanmar. So this is why I come every year to take a long meditation retreat here. But I wouldn't like to comment, give ranks.
It's an unfair question. So I think, because we're a little short of time, I thought we could play a kind of a short game. Where I kind of ask you to kind of just, in a rapid fire way, a few sentences, have fun with the answers.
That's not my strong. I tend to give long answers, but I try. We'll try.
Just have fun.
Yes.
Don't worry too much about it, and we'll see how we kind of get on. So, if I can ask you, and I've thought about these questions based on your book. So I'm trying to, what will be the future of? And what you think should be the future of.
Okay.
Right? So what will be the future of religion, and what should be the future of religion?
Religion will continue to change. I mean, people think that religion is some kind of eternal truth. But if you look at any religion, Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, it changes all the time. People deny the change. No. It's the same eternal truth. You take a Jew today, you take a Jew 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, they believe in different things, they dress differently, they behave differently. So religion will continue to change, to adapt to new realities. Like the rise of AI will also change religion.
Right.
Yeah.
And it should?
If it wants to survive, it has to change. If you don't change, you don't survive.
Okay. What will be the future of romantic love? And what should be the future of romantic love?
I can't predict.
I'm putting in the context of AI.
Yeah.
You mentioned, because we've spoken about these concepts.
I think that we will see more and more intervention of technology, of AI in human relationships. Even humans getting into relationships with AIs. I don't think that AIs have consciousness, that they have feelings or emotions, but they become very good at creating fake feelings and fake emotions, fooling us to think that there is another conscious entity. So I think we will see more and more of that, and this is very dangerous. I think we have to be very careful about that.
And we should be able to keep AI out of our interpersonal lives.
Yes. Again, the key about relationships, especially romantic relationship, if it's only focused on you, I want to feel good, I want to feel better, then AI could be the perfect companion, right. Because it knows your own feelings and it focuses on you. But real relationship is not about me. Real relationship is I'm in the relationship because I want that the other person, I care about the feelings of the other person also. Okay. And if AI has no feelings, I cannot have a real relationship that is going both ways with something that has no feelings.
What about inequality? You know, very interestingly in the book you said that we were more equal when we were apes. Compared to today.
Yeah, I mean, one of the, again, I can't predict the future, it depends on the decisions we make, but one of the big dangers that we will see much greater inequality than ever before, because you have a few countries that lead the AI revolution. It's mostly the USA and China.
Right.
All the countries are far behind.
Right.
So like in the 19th century with the Industrial Revolution, that a few countries like Britain and France and Japan, they led the Industrial Revolution. They conquered and exploited the whole world. It's likely to happen the same thing, maybe on an even bigger scale with AI. And similarly, even if you look inside just one society, you look at the United States. So very few people understand the AI revolution. Very few people make the key decisions about the future of everybody. And these people, you know, like Elon Musk, like the leaders of Silicon Valley, they are not elected by anybody.
Right.
And maybe they are making the most important decisions in the history of the world.
Right.
The creation of AIs, of new agents, more intelligent than us, of a new species that might take over the world. One of the reasons I wrote Nexus is to have more people who understand what is the AI revolution, what is happening, so more people from all over the world can join the debate and voice their opinions.
Sure. If I can just take a step aside from my own game and kind of talk a little bit more about equality and inequality. You know, one of the things that I think about India is that India is a very, very hierarchical place. Everything's hierarchy, right? It's whether employee, employer, student, teacher, guru, shishya, all, you know, you know that whole thing. You know, old, young. You'd always find that hierarchy is much more in India and many other parts of the world, like in Japan, and I'm assuming China. I'm not much about China. And that's kind of how society has functioned. It's worked on hierarchy. And then the American way, which is so attractive and just almost like, you know, capture the imagination of the world, is everything is equal. At least that's the aspirational, you know, thing of the American. Is equality sort of a uniform value around the world? Is equality something which is, as a value, something which is, you know, across the world the same? Or is equality thought about differently in America versus India versus the rest? And how should it be thought about?
Well, the ideal of equality is very attractive all over the world because it is based on a deep truth.
Yes.
That all humans are essentially the same.
Right.
Biologically, we are all the same. We have the same bodies, we have the same mental and physical basic capabilities. Culture creates all these differences.
Correct.
Oh, you're from this group, you're from this caste, you're from this gender, so you're higher, you're lower. All of this is human imagination. Of course, human imagination changes the world.
Right.
If because of our imagination we give some group better education, more money, more positions, then it does become more powerful, more educated.
Right.
But this is not coming from biology. This is coming from our imagination.
Right.
So this is why the idea of equality is so attractive. Of course, it's not easy to implement in practice.
Right.
Especially
it's impossible, right? Would you say it's impossible? Or
to create a completely equal society, it's impossible.
A sustainably equal society. Has it ever happened before?
No. Only on very, very small scale. Like if you have a hunter-gatherer band of 30 people, then okay, it can
Modern
be
history,
more or less
years,
equal.
in the last 1,000 years.
But you don't have any society of millions of people. You can have pretending to be equal. Like you look at communist society.
Right.
In a Soviet Union, for instance, they say everybody's equal. Yes. But yeah, really? Is Stalin really on the equal to the simple peasant?
But
no.
we should still aspire for that. Or is there another way? Can we embrace diversity and equality and kind of have a way where society functions in a happy, fair path?
It's a big debate. I mean, the big debate is a bit between equality of opportunities and equality of outcomes.
Right.
Equality of outcomes is just impossible. Right. When you try to do it, the only thing that can try is a totalitarian regime, because you constantly have to kind of manage everybody. What we can aspire to more is at least equality of opportunities.
Right.
It will never be the same outcome for everybody, but it is unfair if a child born today to a very poor family and a child born to a very rich family, the poor child will not get any education and will not have any opportunities. Why? So at least we should aspire to create more opportunities for more people.
And a quick answer to the first part that you mentioned, do you think that's one of the reasons of all the populist movements around the world, that there is this feeling that we want equality and that's why we're going to change the regime, change everything, change all the institutions?
Sometimes they say so, but many of the policies of populist regimes around the world, they encourage hierarchy and they encourage inequality.
They're voting for authoritarianism.
Yes.
Right?
So they sometimes use the ideal of equality as a kind for propaganda, but when you look at what they actually do,
no one is actually.
It's
fine.
Yeah.
The future of money. And what should be the future of money? What do you think will be the future of money?
That's a very important question. Money is about trust. Money is a system of mutual trust between people, maybe the most sophisticated system of trust ever devised. The two people who never met, complete foreigners, maybe from different countries, they can still trade, they can still make a cooperation based on money. And now we see the rise of new cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which are to some extent based on distrust. That you don't trust the banks, you don't trust the government. So instead, you trust technology.
Right.
This becomes the basis of the money. Like the dollar is based on trust in human institutions.
Right.
Bitcoin is based on trust in technology. So it's another sign that humans are losing trust in other humans and instead trying to base their trust on technology. And this is a very dangerous development.
And what should happen? Should we not be innovative with technology and stick to the old dollar and stick to the old ways of economy?
No, you can definitely have digital. Most dollars already are digital.
Yeah. I've not.
Exactly. I mean, hardly anybody uses cash anymore for anything.
True.
So the question is not whether the money is digital or physical. It's all becoming digital.
Right.
The question is, what is the basis for the trust in the money?
True.
I mean, with the dollar, people say, oh, I trust human institutions like the Federal Reserve or the US government, so I trust the dollar.
Crypto is rebelling that. Crypto is saying, I don't trust.
Yes, crypto is saying, I don't trust human institutions. I put my trust only in technology.
Okay.
And a world in which humans don't trust other humans, I mean, that's the whole trend of AI. Like what you see, you have this kind of AI arms race.
Right.
And you talk with the people leading the big AI companies, and they tell you we have to move faster and faster because we don't trust the other humans.
True.
But then you ask them, but do you think you'll be able to trust the AIs you're creating? And they say yes. And this is the paradox, because we should have more trust in other humans than in this completely new alien AI intelligence.
Okay, I'm going to try to get through some more rapid fires a little bit quicker because I'm getting some signs. I can't really read it on the corner of my eye what is happening. So what wins? Does religion win or does spirituality win? Short answer.
In history, religion wins.
Okay.
Because spirituality doesn't scale. Okay. But if you want to be happy, religion won't help you. It's spirituality is there.
What wins, justice or revenge?
Ooh. Justice, at least, you can't have a large-scale society based on revenge. And we see large-scale societies all over the world. So despite the power of revenge, humans have learned how to seek justice and not revenge.
What do you think will be the outcome? And is there a good ending, or is there a peaceful, sustainable ending of the Israel conflict?
With the Palestinians? Yes, if people want. I mean, the conflict doesn't come from physics or biology, from the laws of nature. It comes from beliefs in people's minds.
Right.
And if people change their beliefs, the conflict will end. But of course, it's very difficult to make people change their beliefs.
The one thing you never expected to see in your lifetime?
Oh, I don't know. I need to think about that.
Okay. If you could go back and edit or change any chapter in 21 lessons.
Oh. I tend, once I finish a book, it's over.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise you edit it it's like a life of its own now. It's like it's not me anymore.
Okay. The one prediction or trend that you think you were wrong about.
The one prediction or trend. I didn't expect that people will give up on the system that brought peace to the world so quickly and so easily. The early 21st century was the most peaceful era in human history. It wasn't because of a miracle. It was because people built institutions and a rule-based order, and it has been the biggest political achievement maybe in history, and people have just gave it up, or are in the process of just giving it up.
You're talking about liberalism and liberal democracies.
No, I'm talking about the international system, which includes also autocracies, which in the...
But there was somebody at the top of that food chain. There was one person top of it, right? Is that part of your...
It's just not just one person. You see it all over the world.
Right.
That people just... I think, again, it's something deep in human nature that the good things you just take for granted.
Yes.
Like when your knee is working well, you don't think about it. You just know the knee, nothing. Then it starts feeling pain, you remember, oh, I have a knee. It's the same with the relative order and the peace of the world, that people just took it for granted.
True.
Now it's collapsing, and instead of order, we get chaos.
Right.
And it was so difficult to build. It was an imperfect order.
Fair.
And I didn't think that people would be so stupid to give up so quickly this achievement.
Okay, the last part, I'll try to be fast, and we got 3-4 minutes. The one historical lesson you'd want to read to the following individuals. The one history lesson you'd want to read to Donald Trump.
I'm not sure that he's really interested in historical lessons.
If there's one thing that you had the opportunity to flag to him and make him sit down and pay attention and consume, which lesson would that be? One anecdote from history, one lesson from history?
The most basic lesson that he's going to die like everybody else. So all this pursuit of power and attention, it will lead him nowhere.
Okay.
And I think if he remembers his own, his own transience, I can almost guarantee him that in a couple of 100 years, nobody would remember him.
Okay.
Like how many Mughal emperors people in the United States remember? How many Byzantine emperors people remember?
Yeah.
Very, very few.
Okay.
So they all get forgotten.
Netanyahu. The one lesson that you'd want him to...
The basic lesson, Jews have been a persecuted minority for 2,000 years. And this was the deepest lesson that Jews learned, that you need, that don't worship power, that you need more compassion. And Netanyahu and his people, everything the Jewish people have learned over 2,000 years, they forgot within 2 generations.
Okay. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.